So, but let me start with the big word cure. I think that's probably what we all hope for, that we all dream about. And I believe we made big strides, but there's still a lot to do. And I would be curious to hear from you. When you think about cure in cancer, is this fair to say that? Are we creating false hopes? Where do you believe we stand at this point?
I think it's a big word. As a patient who will never be cured, it's not something I would obviously hope for it, but I know it's not realistic. And I think people assume it's a really black and white outcome. They assume you are either cured or you die. And I think because of new medicine, we are seeing people in the grey area. I am the grey patient in that area. And we actually, with that comes a lot of issues. It comes with long-term complications. It comes with emotional complications. It comes with managing your livelihood, your kids, whatever it is. Are you living? Are you dying? And actually, I think 40 years ago, it was you lived or you died. And I hope, and I'm not the medical expert on this panel, I hope that actually the more patients we see in the grey area, we will begin to change that narrative around the word cure and look at it more as diabetes or heart disease, and it's how we manage it. And that requires education.
To turn cancer into a chronic disease would be a huge advantage. And it's interesting. And I know we were debating and people said that's not good enough, but you confirming that what you call the gray area is actually something, it gives more life. It prolongs, your life expectancy. And that's what you care about, I guess. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There is massive fear about cancer, fear of dying, and a desire for cure, and that's exactly the binary split that Deborah was just talking about. You're either cured or you die, and clearly that's not true. I mean, in between adding years to life, which is what Deborah has just been talking about, we're also trying to add life to those years. And I think that is the difference between people who used to die many years ago very quickly after a diagnosis of malignancy. And let's take childhood leukemia as an example. In the 40 or 60 years ago that you referred to a moment ago, Deborah, about 5% of children diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is the commonest malignancy in children, would survive 5 years. The rest would die.
5%.
Often 5% would live 5 years, often less than that. And today, that figure is between 85 and 95% in developed countries, and much lower, but certainly 50% or higher in many other countries. I mean, 50% is not enough. We're talking 5 years survival, but nevertheless, the progress is staggering.
And Paul, I think that leads me also to the question in terms of cure in also the different countries that you live and work in. How does this resonate with you?
Well, in my line of work clinically, infectious disease, we know that we can't cure HIV. We know that we can't cure a lot of infections, but can we do what an endocrinologist can do with diabetes? Oh yeah, we can suppress all the symptoms very often and reconstitute immune systems. And it's not just HIV. Some people say, well, chronic osteomyelitis, a chronic infection of the bone, is not really curable in many cases, but can it be suppressed? And I can go on and on. So I sometimes argue with my colleagues in oncology, and I mean literally calling people on the phone and say, will you stop telling this patient that everything hangs on a scan showing whether or not she has recurrent, lesions in her lungs. It's not all about the scan. It's not all about, the cure. It's also about, as Michelle said, it's about adding years to life and adding life to years. And that is, I think, a shift that would be helpful and would not diminish our excitement and enthusiasm and joy about cures. We see a lot of them, but a lot of them don't fall in those neat categories.
With regard to cure, but just one side note in something you said that you're not going to be cured. I very much hope you're wrong.
Thank you.
Because not that long ago, metastatic testicular cancer was thought to be incurable and fatal. And as I'm sure you know, there are a number of young men who've survived with complete absence of lung metastases, secondary deposits in the lung from seminomas, after the introduction of some of the modern regimes of treatment. So it happens, and I hope it will happen for you.
Thank you for that. That gives me hope as well to hear those stories. And I think that's one of the key messages, is when we're talking about cancer on a wider scale, it's actually reiterating those messages of hope. And I think that that's really important to be showing that side of things.
Yeah.